You're watching Durango News, celebrating Southwest Colorado every day.
The Animas River appears to be on the mend after the accidental release of 3 million gallons of toxic water from the Gold King mine near Silverton. But what happens next? With all the local breweries in the area, scientists at the Old Fort Farm in Hesperus hope to find a strain of hops to create a new cash crop for local farmers. And find out who's coming to the Fort Lewis Concert Hall. I'm Ashley Dixon. These stories and more on this edition of Inside Durango News.
This program is brought to you by Advantage Dodge Ram Chrysler Jeep at 20th and Main in Farmington. Visit today for your best deal.
The bright yellow-orange hue that colored the Animas River last week is gone, and Colorado health officials say that the river is returning to normal, just 5 days after the accidental release of 3 million gallons of toxic wastewater from the Gold King mine near Silverton. But neither state health officials nor Environmental Protection Agency scientists are quite ready to say that the river is safe for domestic water use, irrigation, or recreation. And EPA officials say their water quality tests won't be completed and validated for a decision until August 17th. La Plata County Sheriff Sean Smith closed the Animas River to users on Thursday, August 6th, when 3 million gallons of toxic orange water began making its way south after EPA investigators breached a debris dam in the opening of the Gold King mine near Silverton. San Juan County in New Mexico followed suit with similar closures, and every governmental jurisdiction along the Animas declared a state of emergency to address the spill. Both New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez and Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper declared states of emergencies in the affected regions. That designation will provide additional financial resources for emergency responders and ongoing water monitoring. Hickenlooper visited Durango earlier this week to assess the damage. At a meeting in Rotary Park on Tuesday morning, Hickenlooper said the toxic mine release had passed the town. The river appears to be returning to normal, and now it's time to address the future.
And I think our goal here is to really focus on what we can do to make sure that those mines where we know that we have a serious problem, how can we accelerate the remediation and make sure something like this never happens again.
Since the spill, EPA officials have built 4 retaining ponds to remove heavy metals from water that continue to drain from the Gold King mine. In San Juan County in New Mexico, health department officials are offering free testing on water wells located within the Animas River floodplain. And EPA officials are making sure that well owners have drinking water for their homes and livestock. In La Plata County, well owners can contact the San Juan Basin Health Department for free testing. And the EPA has placed claim forms on its website so that businesses and individuals who have been negatively impacted by the spill can get financial help for their losses. Hickenlooper also pledged to help businesses affected by the river's closure.
We are very sensitive to make sure that we do everything we can to help those businesses recover and get back. If we can't make them completely whole to what the revenues they would have had, we want to get them pretty darn close.
While the orange plume certainly looked scary as it flowed along the Animas, the spill hasn't had the devastating impacts that was first feared. Test trout that Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials placed in the Animas before the plume hit are still alive. Only 1 fish died, most likely due to stress. According to local hydrologists, water wells along the Animas most likely will remain unaffected. That's because the volume of water from the Gold King mine was incredibly small compared to the volume of water that flows daily down the Animas. Longtime water engineer Steve Harris, who's been studying the Animas for 40 years, said the volume released from the Gold King mine was equal to about 9 acre-feet of water. That's 1 acre of land covered by 9 feet of water and mud. In comparison, the Animas was running at about 600 feet a second at the time of the release. Harris said that's equal to about 1,100 acre-feet a day. The toxic release was equal to about 1/1000th of that volume of the river at the time of the release, and it continues to be diluted by the river flow. This isn't the first time the river has been flooded with toxins. In 1974, a tailings pond in Silverton released 500 million gallons of toxins into the river. 4 years later, in 1978, Lake Emma flushed through the Sunnyside mine and released 3 million gallons of toxic water and sludge into the river. The toxins from those 2 incidents have since been washed away. Although toxic sediment most likely remains under layers of dirt and mud from subsequent river surges, EPA scientists admit that sediments from toxic releases like these settle into the bottom of the river, and they may still be stirred up for several months after a release event. But Susan Berry from the Bureau of Reclamation says that most of the sediment should be washed away by the next spring runoff. Eventually, they find their way into the Sea of Cortez. Ed Zink, whose family has been farming in the Animas Valley on the Waterfall Ranch for generations, says that the Animas River and the Animas Valley are incredibly resilient, and that wastewater releases like these from the Silverton mines have been ongoing for years. He emailed photos to a list of friends this week that showed thriving fingerlings fish 5 days after the flow of wastewater. His take? The Animas Valley ecosystem has evolved over thousands of years to adapt to the water coming off the San Juan Mountains. Water that is impregnated with acids and natural heavy minerals. The dozens of Durango natives and longtime Durango residents who attended Hickenlooper's presentation earlier this week said the best thing to come out of the spill, the third in 40 years, is that finally local, state, and national government officials may realize that the Animas is a regional resource, not just a tributary that flows from Silverton. Perhaps the long-standing problem of mine wastewater slowly leaking into the Animas River may finally be addressed. There are more than 1,500 abandoned mines in the Silverton mining district and more than 20,000 in the state of Colorado. So how will the mines be rehabilitated? No one knows. The EPA and state officials have pledged to continue long-term monitoring of the Animas River, but even Hickenlooper fell short of committing to naming the mining area around Silverton a Superfund site.
You know, what are the pluses and the minuses of a Superfund site? There are other Superfund sites. How do we determine that? Obviously, a local community has to have a loud voice in that. Colorado is a state that manages itself to a large extent by the state working in partnership with their local community. So, but we'll certainly have those conversations. You can be guaranteed of that.
In the meantime, Durango, Silverton, and the Four Corners area will have to deal with the fallout of the national media attention surrounding this event. And some business and tourism professionals think that that's been more damaging than the toxins. More on that when we update the news on August 20th. If you want to follow the data and mitigation activities involved with the Gold King Mine release, log on to the EPA website at epa.gov/goldkingmine. After the break, take a tour of area farms.
This program is brought to you by Advantage Dodge Ram Chrysler Jeep at 20th and Main in Farmington. Visit today for your best deal.